So looking back on this past year, the year that was 2019, really a lot of my past year was spent in just an unusually significant struggle with prayer. A lot of the past year was just a very dry season of prayer in my life. I'm happy now to say that I think I'm starting to dig my way out of it. I think I'm starting to rebuild that connection with Christ, that willingness and eagerness to enter into prayer. So in today's video, I just wanted to give a few keys, a few tips that I've been using recently to get myself back into the habit of prayer. So for anyone out there who's struggling to get into prayer, who wants to dive deeper into prayer, to spend time consistently doing that, and you can't get into it, here are a few tips for you. The first one that I'm going to start with is find something that is spiritually nourishing for you. Think back to times in your life when you have been really focused on Christ, when that's been a priority in your life, your prayer life has been really good. I look back on my life and think that music has always been super impactful for me, where I really encounter Christ in that kind of prayer. It was the moment when I can think of that I first encountered Christ in a meaningful way was through singing. The time in my life when I really felt like I belonged to something, like I was a part of a group, was in the context of singing songs of prayer to the Lord. Whether it's doing something, whether it's being somewhere, it's hearing something, saying something, reading something, whatever it is, think back through your faith journey and find a time in your life where your prayer life was just strong. It was on fire. Maybe it was a conference you went to. Maybe it was a pilgrimage you went on, a place you were, some people you were around. What were you doing with that group? What did you hear? What did you see? What did you read in those places? And turn to those things to reignite that spark, because we have almost like this spiritual muscle memory that when we are met with something from our past that ignited a flame, it does the same thing. So for me, that's music. Over the past year, when I was in a spiritually dry place, it's like, I just want to pray and I can't. I just play the guitar, sing songs, and it would always work. It always just give me a little bit of something. It wasn't necessarily like authentic prayer from like deep within me, because it was just, words to songs that I didn't have to come up with myself. But nonetheless, spiritually nourishing, allowed me to go closer to Christ, even in those times of dryness. Second thing is creating the right prayer environment. I think a big part of what helps us to enter into a time of prayer is where you are. It's a lot harder to try to pray when you're like in the middle of Times Square and there's people bustling all around you than in the silence of a nice little chapel, right? For me, that environment is usually like a church or a chapel. I find that it's much easier for me to pray. I really can enter into prayer a lot easier when I'm in a church or a chapel environment. Silence is so good for prayer. Not having that constant noise around you helps you kind of to focus in and focus on the Lord. Maybe some light music, because like I said, music's something important for me, but that creates a little maybe ambiance. The dim lighting, I like some warm, dim lighting, the word hygge, Hygge, silence of a dimly lit church. That's the right environment for me. What is the right environment for you? Maybe it's in the outdoors. Maybe it's in the beauty of God's creation that you can really feel like you can encounter Christ, like the Lord is present with me here. Maybe it's like in your room at home where you first learned to pray. Maybe it's wherever, a silent space by a river, within the trees, on the mountains, any place that you know is a good place for you to pray, go there. But I'll also include like people, like what people are in your prayer environment. Maybe you pray really well in the context of like a group setting, so go find a group. Or maybe you pray more alone, you pray better alone than, be on your own time. But I'll also say within the idea of environment, I'll say like the time too, the time of day. What time of day do you find you can enter into prayer more easily? A lot of people say start your day in prayer, which I agree, but maybe that doesn't mean as soon as you get out of bed, because you just can't think and you can't function right away when you get out of bed. So maybe like you eat something small and then you go into prayer. Or maybe it's in the middle of the day and you have more energy there and you can focus better there. Maybe it's at the end of the day when everything has come to the end, you can finally just sit down and be peaceful. What time of day is the best time for you to pray? So first, maybe find something spiritually nourishing. Second, create the right environment for you to pray. And third, start with something. Allow something to lead you into prayer. If you're thinking of prayer as just an authentic, like heart to heart with Christ, a lot of the times I especially know when I'm trying to create that kind of prayer and just nothing's coming, I can't get zoned in. I can't get in the right mental space to enter into prayer because I'm distracted by a million other things. I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat later in the day, what like homework I have, what I have to do at work later. So start with something. Start with some kind of prayer that you don't have to think about, something that's already there. Something that I've been doing recently is a liturgy of the hours, doing a morning, evening prayer where you're just essentially like reading through the Psalms, which enters you into a moment of prayer. Maybe it's like the rosary. Maybe it's starting with scripture. Maybe you read a Bible passage and then you start your prayer from there, reflecting on that scripture. Maybe saying it out loud gets you saying those kind of spiritual words almost, but gets you in that mindset that you can dive in from that starting point instead of just coming in raw to prayer, coming in from your day, coming in from your distractions, coming from a place of scripture, coming from a place of previously known prayers, from words of a hymn, words of a song. Get those words going in your head first so that it's not just diving right in. And you can find apps. You can app on your phone as well for different things like this. Like the Hallow app is one I would suggest for like meditation, different types of prayer. I've used that before and it's helped me to kind of focus in. One like iBreviary has Liturgy of the Hours, has different like mass readings, has different prayers that you could use to dive in from that point. But those are my 3 tips, and I'll give you one final bonus tip, which would be, what is the focus of your life in the moment? Because I know that often when I am in a season of spiritual dryness in prayer, it is usually because something else is really occupying my mind, my energy, my focus, to where it's harder for me to choose prayer, to choose Christ as the main focus of my life, but also to block out those distractions to enter into prayer. So anything like the project that you're working on for school or your homework, maybe food is something that, like, if you have a unhealthy food relationship, that's something for me that I've struggled with before, that I'm just constantly thinking about food. Maybe you have like lustful thoughts in your head and that's, preventing you from entering in more authentically to prayer. Maybe you're having relationship issues and that prevents you, and you're just focused on another person. Or maybe you're obsessed with a TV show and you can't stop thinking about the TV show. Whatever it is in your life that is taking up so much of your mental energy, that has become the focus and maybe the God in your life in this season of your life that you're in, redirect your attention, acknowledge what that is, bring that focus to Christ. This video is probably longer than it needs to be because I've rambled on a few of these, but just 3 basic tips. Find something that is spiritually nourishing for you. Maybe it's being outdoors in God's creation. Maybe it's, listening to music. Something that makes you feel closer to Christ. Do that and enter into that experience with Christ. Create the right prayerful environment. Maybe it's in just the silence of a church, a dimly lit church. Maybe it's when you're sitting in your room. Maybe it's out in the woods. Maybe it's in the context of a Bible study group. Maybe it's alone. Maybe it's in the morning. Maybe it's in the afternoon. Whatever it is, find the right time, place, group, environment for you. And then finally, what was the third one? Lead in with something. Start your prayer with something other than just going in raw heart to heart. Start with something like read the Psalms, read through scripture, pray a rosary, whatever it is that gets you going first, something that you don't have to give so much effort to, that you can just read or participate in. then you can enter into a moment of authentic heart-to-heart prayer with the Lord. Those are my 3 tips. Hopefully you get something out of this video. Let me know in the comments below if you do. Prayer is important. How do we grow in our relationship with Christ? By spending time with him, by talking with him, and listening to him. And that is what we do in prayer. So hopefully this is a beneficial video. That's all I got. See ya.